Good morning.
Good morning دكتور.
كيف حالك جيهان؟
الحمد لله تمام.
كيف العرس كان؟
تمام كتير حلو.
ضيع محاضرة عشانه ولا لا مش مستاهل؟
لا مستاهل.
طيب يلا يا ستي مسامحين.
لا
أنا
بس
جايب
رجعت
علامة
سمعت
كويسة
كل المحاضرات.
إيه؟
رجعت سمعتهم كل المحاضرات، يعني ما في إشي راح علي، دونت وري.
يلا جود الله يعطيك العافية.
الله يعافيك.
ما شاء الله يعني you did a very good performance بالميد تيرم يعني I like it يعني all the best إن شاء الله.
ثانك يو دكتور.
كيف وضع الترانسليشن وين وصلنا؟
هلا احنا هذا آخر بورت بالنسبة لي أنا وسادية. أنا البورت تبعي خلصته، سادية ضل عليها بورت من أرتكل وبتخلصه، وإن شاء الله بنعملها تشيك توجذر وبنبعث لك إياه.
طب كيف سادة بتقرأ عربي يعني هي ولا تعرف ولا كيف
هلا هي
منظمين؟
تستخدم تو ابلكيشنز، جوجل ترانزليت وكمان إشي تاني. وبعدين بس تخلص هي الترانزليشن تبعها، أنا I read الترانزليشن، وإذا في إشي مش
اوكي
مفهوم بعدله، وهي نفس الإشي بتعدل الإنجليش تبعي إذا في أي إشي غلط يعني.
جود
من
هيك
بس
ممتاز. اوكي خليني اشوف تجي بليز بس على الواتساب انه اللي هم يستعجلوا شوي.
يلا
اذا
لو
ما اجوا within 2 minutes I will start يعني صراحة. All right. I think I should start. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jihan. Good morning, Rand. Thanks for attending
Good
this lecture.
morning.
Okay. How's everything going, Rand?
الحمد لله تمام دكتور، أنت كيفك؟
Alhamdulillah, shukran ya Rabb. Thank you again for attending. I shall start because we are almost 6 minutes late. Today, let's proceed. 1 minute. Anyway, let's proceed with the article 47 and 48. In fact, I don't want to go into details in this. But there's a very important. We need to mention this. That's why I'm asking you to be on time. All right. So the thing is how to calculate the building height, particularly if we have. Rand, are you okay? Okay, guys, ready? Rand, Sadia, could you
Yes,
please
sorry كتير.
turn on your camera? Thank you. Okay. All right. So let me come back to this to paint in order to talk about the building height. In fact, let's assume that I'm drawing now a plan. This is a land, okay, and the elevation is, for example, 70 meters, okay, in length, and there is a road. And you know, sometimes, or not sometimes, like 99% of the lands in Jordan are not even, so there is a difference on level. So how to calculate, for example, the building height? Because it's very important, actually, restriction in the municipalities and in Amman governorate, Amman municipality, اللي هو building height. So if there is a building height like 16 meters, but from where to measure it? Like in other words, like let's assume that we have a section of the land like this. And if you go from the very beginning and the end of it, there could be almost like a difference, roughly speaking, like we were talking about 70 meters. If each meter there is a difference of 10 centimeters, we will reach 7 meters over here. And if there is a difference like that, let's say 3 centimeters, we're talking about 2.1 meter, 2 meters and 10 centimeters difference. But this is not an easy number. And we're talking about building height. So how to measure? Where to define it? Can we define it from this point, the lowest point of the land? Or can we define with the highest point of the land? So what do you think? From where to measure?
Street level.
Exactly, the street level. But from where, even though the street, if we take, يعني احنا اخذنا البروفايل تبع الستريت, there could be, for example, difference, maybe let's say another 1 meter or 1 meter 5 centimeters, whatever. There still should be a difference from how to measure a building height, from which point. Any idea?
لا أنا اللي بعرفه هو من الستريت ليفل حسب وين ما بيكون الواحد
But
ببلش يحسب
yes, I understand, Rand. So, but from which level? We have many levels. Like if you go to the street level, you can have like each meter you go this way, you may have like 10 centimeters extra or 10 centimeters minus. So from which point exactly the level?
هلا إذا كان في extra
The ground floor level, I guess.
Sorry, just one.
The ground floor tile level, I guess, from there.
Yes, I know, but I'm talking about the building height. From where to measure? So we have this case in front of us. We have a land property, 70 meter, اللي هي طول الوجه, elevation of the land, 70 meter. And it's served by 12 meter width street. اللي هو this one, 12 meters. So from where to measure the building height. So which level? Can we take it from the lowest or the highest? No, it doesn't make sense. Okay.
I think من الهايست واللوست اللي هو بضل اكسترا ناخده اكسترا لإلنا يعني
No,
للبيلدينج.
no.
لا.
According to the law, if you have the land, you take the elevation of the land, and you take the middle, the very middle of the 70, اللي هو 35, let's assume, wherever there is a 35 degrees, you go do a straight line like this, and you go the middle of the street, and this is your reference, the benchmark. It becomes. So in our case, it will be roughly speaking like this. So you take the building height from here. So from this point, you need to take 16 meters in the whole building height. So here it should go lower, and here it should go higher a little bit. So according to the law, you go to the elevation of the land, not the elevation of the building. Why this is very important? Let's assume I did not build on the whole part of the land. Like my building is like just like this. I built only 20 meters of the land. So still you need to go to the elevation of the land, the total length of the land, you go to the 70 meters, and this is your benchmark. So let's assume, we have many cases. For example, this is the building. We have worked on it, this one. You see, the land, it's a start from this point, the elevation, to that point. However, the building, as you can see, start from this point to this point. Okay? So when we did the building height, we did not take the building elevation. We took the elevation of the total land area, and then we took a center line, and we take the street level at this point, and then we start measuring the building height. All right? This is very important when we do a building calculation, okay? Clear? And you're not paying attention to us. Are you fine? Are you able to continue this lecture, or you have some commitments?
يعني both. I'm trying now.
You can't. You need to find a place where you can fully focus on our lecture, or otherwise you need to just take a spare time and then you watch the recording later on. Okay? Thank you. So I think that's what we need to cover in terms of the building height. Now let's jump to Article 49. So 49 is some of the items or some of the architectural components or that it should be available in each building in order to get اللي هم the construction license, the license that that permits you to start doing the excavation works on the land. All right. So any building, whether it was residential, commercial, or industrial, it must has these elements. The very first one is a water reservoir or a water well, beer مية. So unfortunately, there is no restriction or there is no clear guidelines regarding the size of the water well in each building. The only thing you need to provide it is just a water well, whether it was 5 meters square or whatever. The only thing is you need to provide it, and you pay part of an insurance that it is reimbursable after they check when they come to do the occupation permission اللي هي committee. Once they see that that you have a water well, you can get back the guarantee or insurance كفالة. You pay around, I think, 200 GOD in order to make sure that you have constructed a water well. The only thing that they put it in the restriction is that the opening, it should not be more than 75 centimeter each dimension. I'm talking about like when you do the construction, the only thing that if you have this is the water well, you need to have an opening not more than 75 centimeters. That's for safety reasons, so nobody will fall in it, particularly cars or humans who are using it. And it should be covered with a very sturdy material like steel or special aluminium cover in order to protect it from anybody falling into it. That's the very first thing you need to make sure in any building to get the license. So it's kind of a checklist. This article 49. In terms of multi-residential or multi-apartment building, there should be a water tank, particularly it should be at least one water tank, not less than 2 meter cube per each residential unit in the multi-apartment building. So if you have 8 apartments, you should provide 8 water tank, and each water tank should be not less than 2 meter square. اللي هو meter cube, sorry. حجم المي. C, in case, particularly this is important for commercial industrial building because electrical current that's provided by the surrounding electrical network is not enough for commercial or for industrial building. Sometimes you need to dedicate a place, like roughly speaking, talking about 5 by 4, like 20 meters square, that is dedicated to install an electrical generator or electrical transformer اللي هو المحول. In residential building, mainly because according to the electrical engineering calculations, any residential building, roughly speaking, they consume or around like 70 ampere. So you can provide this building directly electrical requirements or electrical load from النتورك surrounding it، مش شارع يعني. ما في داعي يعني مباشرة من الكيبل شركة الكهرباء اللي هي National Electric Company, they come and connect your building اللي هو it's residential from the network directly to your building. But in commercial buildings زي المجمعات التجارية or for banks or for malls with huge electrical load, like talking about for 450 ampere or more and more and more, you need to provide a transformer اللي هو المحول. So it's raise electrical current. In this case, it is your responsibility, right, to provide a place 4 by 5 meter, okay, and there's some electrical restriction actually, so some dimensional restriction. You need to adhere with it. For example, openings, الدور تبع الغرفة هاي 4 by 5 meter, it should be not less than 2.25 يعني لازم تكون مترين وربع, and it should be have it should be from metal, for example, from fire resistant material, particularly if this room inside your building, okay. So these restrictions mainly it's being delivered are being set up by the electrical company in order to make sure that there is a decent place to install a transformer. By the way, the owner who pays for the transformer. It's so the electrical company does not pay for it. So the owner pay, and they come and install it, and they operate it, right? And the access to this room, it should be directly thoroughly done. يعني المسؤول عنها الوحيد هو electrical company. So the owner does not have an access to the transformer, even though it is inside his or her building. So this is a very important thing when you are designing it, particularly for huge buildings. Sometimes you can put it in the cellar, but you need to provide a decent access, particularly for any emergencies or for the fire brigades, الدفاع المدني, whatever, in order to get there, because sometimes it's rarely happens, but in some cases it could burn up and need a direct access by the fire brigades. Sometimes D, you need to provide اللي هي بسموها septic tank, particularly for building that's not served by sewage or drainage system in the surrounding roads. كثير من many buildings in Amman, for some geographical and topographical reasons, we cannot provide them with a sewage drainage system. Okay, so in this case, you need to. The very first thing, actually, when you do a land survey by a surveyor, اللي هو المساح, he or she provides you with all the details around the building, around the land, particularly if there is electrical grid. He will provide you if there is a sewage linkage or drainage or telecommunication cable, anything. So this is, you need to ask the land surveyor to provide you with all details, all the utilities surrounding the building. Sometimes, in many cases, like roughly speaking, around like 40% of buildings in Amman, or a little bit less, are not served by sewage system because of, as I told you, topographical or geographical area. Either it's very far, or it is like in the bottom of a valley or whatever. So it's very difficult, or needs a lot of investment in infrastructure to provide it. So they ask you to provide a septic tank. اللي هو, in fact, have you ever dealt with it, guys? It's just a place. It could be buried in the ground like this or like this. Okay, so you can all the black water and the gray water in the building is being accumulated over here, and after like depend on the usages, they come a specific company in order to pump out all the black water and extract it to a specific place. So unfortunately, many of the people, they don't do a septic tank اللي هي hermetically sealed, محكم الإغلاق. They just use something called, they just bury the ground, and they all the water particularly contains chemical and some poisonous material for the environment, unfortunately start like leaking down into the lower earth strata, طبقات الأرض, and it could reach the ground water, the water that we drink from it, the fresh water. So unfortunately, that's what mostly happened in Jordan. Okay. But in order to be more environmentally friendly, you need to provide the septic tank. You need to bury it, okay, and بعد ما يخلصوا برشوا حواليه فولية to protect it, and then they seal it with a proper slab in order not to damage the septic tank. So it looks like this. It depends on the size of it. So it has an end and a ventilation زي ventilation um, extract fan, right? And there is an overflow. And if it's gets higher level and there was no maintenance, so the overflow it could lead you up to outside, as you can see here. So here is the overflow, and with the ventilation as well. Okay. Uh, so the same thing, yeah. In terms, you need just to leave for this septic tank at least 1.5 meter, okay, as a setback. اوكي، تأمين امتداد لا يقل عن متر ونص، والفتحة تبعتها 0.75. So you should provide a setback for the septic tank 1.5 from the surrounding, and the openings is 7.5 meter at max, right? H is you need to provide a place for garbage bins, to collect garbage bins for any building. Okay, to facilitate garbage collection for the people who are living or occupying the building. In terms, there is more than 8 apartments in any building. Okay, you need to provide a guard room or اللي هو الحارس. And you need to provide it with a humane design, like it should have the proper ventilation, should be has a natural illumination, along with a toilet or a bathroom and a kitchen. And this is in the buildings that exceeds 8 apartments. Okay, this is very important. Article 50. Any question actually regarding 49? تمام. Article 50 addresses the issue. ايش يعني طبعا بالانجليزي بالله، اللي هي building construction waste, solid construction waste. Solid construction waste. As you know, this thing is very dangerous for the environment. And in the past, there was no kind of regulation to govern the process. That's why in many places, people could come and dump the construction waste around in any vacant land or on the boundaries of streets. And this could cause many environmental and social and economical problems. So in order to govern this process, particularly for any new building, in the renovation, it's a little bit difficult, but for any new building, in order to get a construction license, you need to provide an insurance. When you pay the construction license, in order to get the construction license to start working on the site, there's many تأمينات أو guarantees or insurances. You have an insurance to provide the elevator. Sorry, fees for the elevator. For the water tank, you pay elevator. You pay insurance. I think 200 or 250, something like this, to provide a water tank, water reservoir or a water well. You pay insurance in order to provide like all the الفواتير او kind of ايش فواتير بالانجليزي يا جماعه؟ bills in order that prove that you have dumped all the construction waste of your building in a proper and registered dumping sites. So, for example, they do it. You pay around 3,000 or up to maybe 10,000 GOD, depend on the size of the excavation, right? And you and this is the responsibility of the consultant اللي هو البروجكت مانجر بالسايت. So to ask the contractor to provide him with all the bills, because once you do the construction بحطوها بالقلاب and they start moving it to the dumping site. Once they enter the dumping site, they pay fee. So when they pay fee, they give them a bill. They should protect and accumulate all these bills. So once you finish the the excavation, okay, and before getting the occupation license, you need to take them and go to the municipality or the local council to provide them with all these bills, so to make sure, so they can make sure that you have dumped your construction waste in the proper and registered places. Okay, that is the procedure mainly in regarding solid construction waste management في الأردن في عمان. Okay. Moreover, sometimes some of the construction, by the way, when you do the excavation, is not all waste. Some of it could be an agriculture soil. Some of it could be اللي هو limestone construction dump that's proper for dumping, filling the foundation. So that's fine, but you need to provide or take images, okay, that some of the dumping, some of the excavation is agriculture soil, so you provide it for a specific nearby farm, and part of it you need to provide like an image, so they can look at the image and estimate, yes, this is being used for filling اللي هم الفاونديشن, all right, and the remaining you can just provide them with the bills in order that's being extracted in a proper dumping site. That's mainly the things regarding اللي هو construction solid waste management في الأردن before the construction. Article 51 is about the utilities related to water, the drainage system or sewage, the phone, the communication network, electricity, that all it should be cables should be provided in a proper tunnel. So once there is a construction outside the building, so it will not be damaged. That's a new restriction. So any all the utilities cables, it should be protected by a proper manner. However, this is not important. Why? Because it is not the responsibility of the contractor to construct and link utilities to your building. You need, once you get the permission, okay, to link a sewage system or water to the building, you need to, so the municipality, it has a list of licensed contractor, okay, you need to contact one of them, so to provide, to do the construction or to do the linkage of the water or electricity or the sewage to your building. It is not the responsibility of the contractor, of your contractor, the one you have assigned for the task. So once anything beyond the boundary of your land, okay, you are not permitted to do the construction, for example, to do the excavation in the road, in the public road, because sometimes when you need to do the sewage linkage, you need to construct this pipe in the land. So in order for the municipality to make sure that everything is going well, they have a list of contractors, okay, they have some kind of guarantees or insurances. So you need to choose one of them, to do an agreement of one of them, and they start to do the construction. So, for example, in the sewage system, in this case, in the Majari, you need to link all the sewage system of your building, and you just provide اللي هو pipe that takes the sewage from your building to the network. And then the contractor, اللي هو municipality contractor, comes and link this pipe, mainly 4-inch or 6-inch, depend on the size of your project, and then link it throughout the road to the public network اللي هي الموجودة. Okay? It is not your responsibility. The owner goes and find a contractor, do the agreement with him or her, and then he pays for it for him, and that's it. So he is exempted from any responsibility, because many times they in the past there was a contractor, any contractor, not licensed contractor, they come and do the excavation, and then they fill it with not proper engineering method, and then it becomes like kind of irregular faces on the street, and causes some disturbance for street commuters. And in order to avoid this issue, so the municipalities had an agreement with specific contractors, and if the work is not proper, they have the guarantee, so they can ask them to come back to the same spot and redo the construction again and again, right? Sometimes when you do the excavation, particularly as I told you, a cellar, you can build it on the very boundaries of the land. You can build with zero setbacks all around the surrounding of the land. So but sometimes when you do the excavation, there's for safety reasons, in order to avoid any slide down of the road, sometimes we are obliged to block this street for specific reason once, for specific period, once we finish with the construction of the cellar and the finishing of the surrounding retaining wall. But this should be done in coordination of اللي هو الجفرنر assistant اللي هو المتصرف. You cannot just come and block the road by yourself. You need to provide specific justification for تاخذ كتاب من اللجنة المحلية, and you go to the المتصرف اللي هو governor assistant for the local district, for the specific district, and then you can with the coordination of the surrounding people, sometimes you need to provide like a secondary road, so the resident, their daily life mobility will not be affected. So even though you can just temporarily do a road on a private land, for example, whatever, you need to provide a subsidiary for it. So you will not just affect the surrounding people at all. And this is being done case by case, depending on the situation. Article 52 addresses the issue of the materials that's being used on the facade of the building. So mainly speaking, you are not permitted to use any material that reflects the light and which could affect or cause some disturbance to the surrounding. Some of the curtain walls, most curtain wall become like popular in Amman. Some of it cause really some disturbance because it's glass and do the reflectance to the neighboring next to the property. This has caused many issues on the street. and they may ask the owner, but this could be done after the building occupation. So you can just go and do the licensing, everything is good. But if your neighbor start complaining, it is your responsibility to address this by either maybe installing some of the louvers or uh, maybe paint the curtain wall with a specific material that cause non-reflectance. So you need to make sure when you are particularly having a total frontal facade of a curtain wall to check with the supplier that it has a low reflector, because the cheap material sometimes may affect the neighbor and cause a problem in for the future. So as a consultant, you need to make sure that any material that's being used in the facade, that to lower its reflectance. Okay. Article B, in terms that you would like to use plaster. Okay. اسمع باستعمال أي لون أو طلاء. It's about the percentage of plaster or stone in Amman. It should be mainly by should be like there's a restriction that it should be white, or it should be used by the color of the natural stone, as it's been mentioned here, بلون الحجر الطبيعي أو اللون الأبيض. However, you can use other colors, but should not exceed 20% of the total facade. The total facade area for the four elevation, it should not be more than 20%, and you should get a permission from the local council about this. So in other words, you can use for example a combination of plaster and stone for some building, but mainly because of the culture in Jordan, they use اللي هم الstone because of its higher durability and low maintenance for the long run. Article C, it is prohibited in the main facade, particularly the frontal facade, to get you see these split units اللي هم ACs, to install them in the frontal facade, or to have an exposed mechanical piping or electrical piping in the frontal or in the sidal or rear facade. That's why I told you, actually, you as a consultant, you will not be happy by seeing these things exposed in your building. So that's why in the previous lecture, we discussed the issue of the shaft. So we have three types of shafts. We have the shaft that provide ventilation and illumination for a living room, which should be 10 meters square at minimum. And then there is a shaft to provide natural ventilation and illumination for kitchen or toilets and laundry room. And there is the third type of shaft that's only for mechanical piping, mechanical or electrical cables. And this should be at minimum 80 centimeters by 80 centimeters. Okay? So you must rely on this in order to provide اللي هو البايبس تبع السويج سيستم or electrical cable or ethernet, sorry, الفايبر, هاي كل الكيبلز هاي to be in this, and you can use as many as you can. Okay, so you can maybe use in building like in the previous project I worked on it, the floor area was around 700 meters square, and we used around four, I think, yeah, 4 or 5 mechanical shafts, 80 centimeters by 80 centimeters, or 80 by 1. Okay, so that's the thing that you need to take it into consideration. Anyway, Article 35 It's about the preservation of the heritage building, vernacular building. So there is a specific definition for heritage building. If we can go to the terms and vocabularies, in the very beginning over here, in fingers, yeah, here we go. اللي هو heritage building or vernacular building. So it is المنشآت والمفردات المعمارية ذات خواص معمارية تاريخية وترفيهية تحت أحداث معينة أو تكون مدرجة في سجل التراث العماني. So in fact there is, according to this terminology, there is no clear definition what is a vernacular building. According to this definition, it is kind of a fuzzy definition. We can't determine whether this, and that's particularly one of the pitfalls اللي هي ثغرات بالقانون to protect the vernacular building. So, for example, if this building is being owned by ordinary family, that they are neither a thinkers or a ministers or previous or who work in the government or someone like really distinguished figure. So we cannot consider this as like a vernacular building or a heritage building, because according to this definition, it should be linked to a historical or for cultural part of the history of Amman. But there's many people who are not even involved in even a cultural contribution or like a political contribution. ممكن they are just a business owner, previous business. Maybe could be just specific. They have a specific crafts. They نجارين حدادين who used to live in Amman, and they have specific, and they have a really beautiful building. And many of these buildings, particularly in Webde or in the downtown, it's been knocked down because the owner, the previous owner, does not have any political or cultural background. So they consider this building as, well, he does not have any political or cultural value. Okay. However, I think one of the pitfalls in this law, we need to define the heritage building in much wider definition and put more criteria to define it, because yeah, some of the building does not have any architectural value, so it should be knocked down. It's fine. That's the process of urban development. But some of the building, yeah, they have a architectural value. So my recommendation is any building that's been built before the 1950, before getting a permission to be knocked down, it should have an architectural committee to evaluate this building and to provide an images at least, so it could be documented in the future in order to fight any corruption or transparency. Okay, any building that's been built before the 1950 should be fully documented, and it should be assessed by a committee of people who works in as a previous contribution in heritage building or have a research in heritage building before getting the permission to be knocked down. Otherwise, like giving it for the local council to do this, it's like subject to corruption and non-transparency. And any building should be fully documented before being knocked down. Like should be a total documentation of by images, whatever, in order to make sure that to preserve this cultural value. Anyway, maybe in the future they will give them more attention about this issue, but in order to get this, where is it? Article 35, it talks about all the restrictions regarding building heritage, that any building heritage to be, if there is, if you would like to knock it down or whatever, you should get the 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 approval of the local council, which is, as I told you before, does not make sense to me. It's subject to corruption, uh, and we need to put more restriction about looking down or even do some of the amendments. Because some of the buildings, yeah, they do what's the amendments? They start plastering these limestone, heritage limestone, and they transform it to a new modern industrial building. So it's the same crime, yani, like knocking it down. So you are kind of erasing this cultural value. So any amendments or even knock down or even do the extension, it should be done with a very clear restriction, right? So Article 45 is about that you should not do any buildings nearby nearby to the airports. And in Amman, we have just one single airport under its jurisdiction, اللي هو Markaz Airport. And the other one, اللي هو Queen Alia, that's outside the boundaries of Amman municipality. Article 55, that all the blueprints should be done by a registered consultant office registered by the Jordanian Engineer Syndicate, نقابة المهندسين, and pays all his fees or whatever in order to get all right, there's a very important thing that I may not cover it very well. Maybe the tentative approval of a building license. Why would we need this thing? Because sometimes with the buildings, as I told you, there is residential buildings, but you are permitted to do some other functions, like in اللي هو rural residential. You are permitted to do religious building like church or mosque in this building. But what if after I get this, the law, yeah, it's clear. But what if I did a building and later on the council disapprove this? Not religious building. It could be like, for example, a special education or special care center for elderly, whatever. You are permitted to do this in, for example, some residential land uses. So is it fair for me as an owner, even the law support me after finishing all these blueprints and giving all the details and pay for the civil engineer and electrical engineer, like big amounts of number, to tell me like we disapprove it for some specific reason? So in order to avoid this miscommunication and to preserve the right of the local community not to have a huge building within residential areas, and to preserve and to ensure a proper mechanism for investment, so you can apply for a tentative approval for your building. Like, this will cost maybe 10% of the total cost of providing a fully detailed blueprint. So in this, you can, for example, you own a residential area, for example, resident A, and you need to provide a proposal for a local commercial building to provide اللي هي حكينا التجاري المحلي اللي هو local commercial, and then you provide a sketch or a proposal, a conceptual design for a commercial building, providing the elevation اللي هم conceptual plan, the one the similar level to the one you provided in the design juries. There is maybe here 8 or 7 documents mainly is required for the tentative approval. So this costs you maybe 15% of the total design document. And if it's get approval, then you go to the consultant to start going with more details. And if you get a disapproval from the local council and then from the Metropolitan Council, then what you do is you just lose just a small margin of the total cost of the blueprints preparation. Okay, so this is for you as a consultant. If some owners comes to you and he is hesitated and he is kind of afraid, like, okay, I am afraid that to pay all this amount of money and I will not get approval for this specific function. Tell him or tell her, okay, fine, we can provide a tentative approval. And once we get this tentative approval, who are just conceptual sketches, we can proceed to the next detailed level. The detailed level, once you get the approval, or once you are providing a function like a residential within that's adhere to the land use category, you need to provide these 15 or 16 documents. So any document, in order to get the construction license, you need to provide the following one. We will go through them quickly, all right? The very first thing in بالمعاملة, in the governmental official mechanism, the very first thing you need to provide the ownership license, الجوشان. The second one, you need to provide a site plan, 1 to 200, and the site plan should provide all the existence building, if any. It should provide the setbacks, should provide surrounding roads, their level, the slope of the line of the surrounding streets. This is all, it's been done by the land surveyor. Should provide all these detailed information. Moreover, the third one, you need to provide topographical plan. Okay, topography, 1 to 200. Fourth one is to provide plans, sections, elevation, 1 to 100. Okay, you need to make sure that this you adhere to the scale. So sometimes we have like a huge document like this for big buildings. That's why we have in the past, but nowadays they are moving to electrical, digital mechanism to submit these profiles. Construction plan, 1 to 100. Electrical plan, another 1 to 100. Connection of your building by the electrical source of power, 1 to 100. Sewage system, 1 to 100. The slope of roof slope, 1 to 200. The roof slope for drainage, rain drainage. Landscape, 1 to 100. The septic tank, 1 to 50. More detailed one, the septic tank. As I told you, you should leave 1.5 meter setback, even though you put it in the rear setback or in the frontal setback or in the side setback. The only thing, you need to leave 1.5 meter as a setback. For the water well, 1 to 500, 1 to 50. Fencing, retaining wall, or these are 1 to 100. So you provide a section to depict the land topography. As I told you, it should not the boundary wall should not exceed more than 2.5 meter in height. So you need to provide this above here natural land topography. Okay, you need to provide clear section to present this. Also, you need to provide 1 to 200 for a functional plan, showing just the functional plan, showing what's the uses that's been to be suggested in the building. That's very important for the industrial and the commercial building. And also you need to provide area table, and you need to provide a clear formula how to you calculated allocated car parks. You remember there's 3 or 4 formulas. You need to copy paste them, and you need to clearly illustrate how you reach allocated car numbers, the minimum one, and how you provide it in your building. 1 to 100, that's for اللي هم for the mall and for a huge commercial complex. You need to provide clear traffic analysis for the entry and the exit of your building. 17, any other information that the local council may ask you to provide it. The thing in the tentative approval, you get here 16. Here you get only like 7. So that's why it will have very lower cost in comparison to provide fully detailed. That's if you are hesitated that the local council may or may not approve the proposal of your building. So I advise you to start with a tentative approval before wasting the money of your principal agent اللي هو الowner. Article 656. It's about, okay, I can just spare some 2-3 minutes to discuss this. Article 56 is about once you provide all these documents and you pay the fees for it, that you will not pay the building fees اللي هم we discussed them in Article 70. You only pay them once you get the approval, the total approval. Okay, it does not make sense to pay like 30,000 GOD and then you get the approval of the building, you know. So, but you pay like a specific small amount of money for the administrative fees. So, the local council, it should give you an answer regarding approval or disapproval of your building within 30 days, 30 working days. Okay. Actually, it's not being written here. It's saying 30 days. That means includes even holidays, according to. But anyway, mainly speaking, you will get an answer within 10, I think, mainly 2 weeks. Why? Because the local council is held meetings every week, mainly on Wednesday or on Monday. So every week they held a meeting to discuss all these proposals. So mainly speaking, I think average time is 10 days, 2 weeks. You will get an approval or disapproval of the building. Okay, and the procedure is all documented on the Amman governorate website. So you have a specific number for للمعاملة, and you it's kind of tracking it from the very beginning, or the administrative procedures that's being done upon it. Once you get the approval, you can start paying all the fees for the building. And once you pay all the fees, you can get and pay all the insurances and blah blah blah. You get اللي هو إذن الحفر اللي هو construction permission license. So you are eligible to start working on the site. Moreover, there is a very important thing. Once you get this construction building license, it is only valid, I think, for 6 months to start the construction on the site. So within this 6 months, if you did not start with the construction, you need to provide again for the building construction. Okay, so the building construction license اللي هي إذن الحفر, it's only valid for 6 months. Okay, within this 6 months, if you did not do anything in the site, you need to again to provide another معاملة جديدة بالlocal council. And once you did you get started the construction, any type of construction, even you just do small digging, you will have it will be extended for 5 years. After 5 years, if you did not complete your building, you need to again to provide another documents, another blueprints for the local council, and to pay again almost, I think, 25 of the original fees, extra ones. So that's why it's very important, once you pay all the building fees, to make sure to notify the client that you have 5 years to complete your building, or otherwise you need to resubmit blueprints again to the local council and to get another approval, right? And to pay 25% of the original fees. This is very important thing that most people say, okay, I will just go get the building license, and every year I will pay part of the building. But no, you have a maximum of 5 years to finish the building. Okay, otherwise you need to pay another 25%. And this is a huge number. يعني احنا بنحكي لما نحكي normal building، إذا بتحكي عن if we talk about 6,000 meters square, you pay 4 GOD per each meter square for the residential. نحكي عن 6,000 أو 4,000 8,000 دينار، 8,000 لا أكثر، 4,000 متر 4 قديش يا جماعة؟ 16,000. Talking about 16,000. So if you did not finish this building within 5 years, you need to pay 25%. يعني نحكي عن قديش ربع هذا 4,000 GOD in order to get another to approve the building license, construction license. So that's why it's very important to finish it within 5 years. Next lecture, Article 57, that we will talk about اللي هو occupation permission. Once you finish all the building and you would like to now to connect to utilities, اللي هي mainly water and electricity. So there is couple of checklist you need to make sure in order to get the occupation permission. We will discuss this next lecture, and we will continue for the remaining articles. Okay. يعطيكم العافية. I hope you learned from this lecture. Any questions or inquiries?
Thank you. يعطيك العافية دكتور.
يعطيكم العافية. ما عندك أسئلة؟ الله معك. All the best. Thank you. Bye bye.